There is a specific kind of coldness that settles in your chest when the people living under your roof treat you like an intruder in your own life. Standing in the middle of our family dining room, watching my late father's second wife slam her fists against the wooden table and order me to hand over my bedroom to her pampered son or get out, I did not shed a single tear. Her face twisted with this hideous sense of triumph, completely convinced she had finally broken me. What she failed to realize in that moment was that my silence was not surrender, but the quiet before a storm that would tear her comfortable world apart. My name is Felicia, and as a 27-year-old corporate risk manager, I spent years analyzing numbers, contracts, and financial loopholes to protect major companies from bad investments. After my dad passed away, I channeled that exact same discipline into taking care of our house, quietly paying the property taxes, handling expensive structural repairs, and covering every utility bill while my stepmother dynamic duo lived there without contributing a single cent. I had tolerated their arrogance out of respect for my father's memory, foolishly believing that keeping the peace was my duty. But that night, as her son sat beside her smirking like he had just won a prize, I realized my kindness was only funding my own degradation. Instead of begging for mercy, I packed 2 suitcases, stepped into the pouring rain, and drove straight to a hotel in downtown Portland to map out my next move. Sitting on the edge of the bed with my laptop glowing, I opened my personal savings account and verified my balance of $212,000, funds I had carefully built up while single-handedly keeping my father's household afloat. For months, my best friend had been begging me to stop sacrificing my life for ungrateful relatives and buy a place of my own. Looking through the real estate listings she has sent me, a beautiful 2-story mountain house tucked away in the pine trees of West Hills captured my attention. By 8 o'clock the following morning, I was walking through the sunlit rooms of that hillside retreat, breathing in the fresh air and making an immediate cash offer for the down payment. 5 days later, I officially held the keys to my new sanctuary, a place where no one could ever make me feel small or unwelcome again. But securing my personal freedom was only the first half of my plan, because it was time to address the home my father had left behind. I scheduled an urgent consultation with a seasoned real estate attorney named Arthur, bringing along every financial document, deed record, and tax filing I had saved over the years. Arthur carefully examined the land registry files, adjusted his glasses, and gave me the exact news I had been hoping to hear regarding Oregon probate laws. Since my father died without leaving a specific separate will, the suburban property automatically defaulted to equal joint ownership between his surviving spouse and his direct biological descendant. Because my parents had originally purchased the house before my father ever remarried, my legal stake stood at a firm 50% of the total market value. With recent neighborhood sales placing the home at $500,000, my stepmother had zero legal right to kick me out, but she did owe me a cool $250,000. Right then and there, I authorized Arthur to draft a formal partition demand giving her 30 days to either buy out my cash, share, or face a court-ordered public sale of the entire estate. A few days after I settled into my hillside cottage, my phone began blowing up with demanding text messages from my stepmother, listing high-end party groceries and demanding I transfer money for her son's birthday celebration. Looking at her continuous notifications, I casually logged into my online banking profile and permanently revoked their access to the credit card accounts I had opened for them during my father's final illness. Within an hour, my phone rang furiously as her son screamed into the receiver about his card being declined at a high-end grocery store. I calmly informed him that his free ride was officially over before hanging up, leaving him to face the embarrassment of a long line of impatient customers alone. Moments later, my stepmother called back in a total rage, threatening to contact the police and file reports against me for abandoning my financial duties to the household. I simply laughed into the speaker, reminding her that I had no legal obligation to fund her lifestyle or pay bills for a home she had driven me out of. before ending the call and letting the mailman deliver Arthur's legal notice directly to her front porch. The moment that certified letter landed in her hands, the reality of her desperate financial situation came crashing down around her like a house of cards. Having relied entirely on my father and then myself for years without maintaining real employment, her credit profile was practically non-existent, making a commercial loan payout completely impossible. Her son offers zero help, given his lack of income and ongoing academic troubles, meaning they had no way to pay the upcoming property taxes or maintain the house without my salary. Panic quickly replaced her former arrogance, leading to dozens of frantic voice messages where she wept bitterly, begging me to come back and work things out as a family. When she finally begged for a face-to-face meeting to save the house, I agreed to meet her at a crowded downtown coffee shop, making sure Arthur walked in right beside me. Sitting across from us, my stepmother attempted a dramatic public performance, weeping about how an ungrateful stepdaughter was throwing a grieving widow onto the streets. Arthur remained completely calm, spreading out verified property titles, tax receipts, and financial statements that laid bare my years of funding the residence while holding half ownership of the entire property. Her theatrical crying instantly dried up under the weight of cold legal facts, leaving her completely speechless in front of the entire cafe. Before she could craft another lie, I reached into my bag, pulled out an official lease cancellation notice for the sedan her son had been driving, and slid it across the table. When he started shouting about how he needed the vehicle for his daily commute, I stared him down and demanded the key fob immediately, unless he wanted me to report the car as unauthorized property. With trembling hands, he tossed the keys onto the wood, realizing his years of living off my hard work were officially over. 3 weeks later, the suburban house was sold on the open market for full value, and after the title company paid out my legal $250,000 share, the remaining funds left for my stepmother were far too small to afford anything comfortable. With no job history and terrible credit ratings, she and her son were forced to sign a lease for a cramped, run-down 2-bedroom apartment on the far edge of town. Stripped of their luxury lifestyle, toxic resentment quickly destroyed whatever relationship they had left, with her son bitterly blaming her grief for losing their home and car. When she sent me one final desperate text message begging for a monthly allowance to pay her rent, I simply tapped my screen and blocked both of their numbers permanently. Sitting on my sunlit deck overlooking the valley, enjoying a quiet morning with fresh coffee, I realized that standing up for myself was never about revenge, but about reclaiming the dignity and peace I truly deserved.